Committee. Welcome, everyone. I'll start with apologies. I have a standing apology from Councillor Wright. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Mawson and Councillor Simpson. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Any conflicts of interest? There being none, we will move on to the public forum, and I'd like to invite Alan Rhodes. Alan is speaking to us in our public forum. So Alan, please feel free to come up and join us. We also have a second public forum from Alan from the Napier RSA who will follow. So gentlemen, you both have 10 minutes to address us and a further 5 for questions. I think everyone is aware of the restrictions around our public forums, and I will keep everyone accountable to those. So Alan, your time.
Morena, and thank you, all of you. For those of you who are new to the council, you may not know me, but I have been pretty much on this War Memorial issue, since April 2017. And I will read you what my address contains, and you can ask questions at the end of it. Holocaust survivor Eli Wiesel once said, "Without memory there is no culture, there is no civilization, there's no society, and there is no future." Memory puts down its deepest roots and creates its most profound meanings in suffering. And war must surely be one of the most painful realities any society can endure. This need to remember the meaning of war has marked the world over with national monuments to family, friends, citizens, and yes, even enemies too, who sleep together in death. They are always monuments to human folly. They are always monuments to not only follow, but the waypoints of human grieving, and they are always warnings to the future. If any of you have listened, as I have, to the last post in the cavernous hall of the Meningate in Belgium, with the sound bouncing off walls, inscribed with the names of 54,000 lost and unknown from World War I. If any of you have stood at the gateway to Tyne-Cot, the biggest military cemetery in the world, and have seen the vast horizon landscape of white stones, you will know the pain that so many of the living there still acknowledge, and so many here have too, when they put their hands in their pockets and funded Guy Natusche's beautiful 1957 War Memorial in Napier. A number of you here are new councillors, and of course keeping tabs on a whole city is a lot more than just a memorial. But I would like to ask you to remember some things. That war memorial of ours now commemorates the loss of over 1,000 of our local people to war. 1,000 plus, mostly young, never returned to contribute anything back to their community beyond their very existence. One estimate suggested that for every loss, 8 people suffered the depths of despair at their passing. This puts into perspective the determination in a 1950 city of 22,000 people to properly memorialise its loss. That Guy Natouche designed a war memorial, it was paid for with donations from a thankful community, and every donated pound was matched with a pound subsidy from the government of the day. There were, however, conditions that attended the government subsidy. The memorial had to be a community use war memorial, and the subsidy would only be paid on community donations. It could not be a commercial enterprise. When the memorial was completed, it was to be passed into the care of the local body, in this case, of course, the Napier City Council, which had to agree to maintain that war memorial as a war memorial in perpetuity. This situation lasted for decades until the memorial was added to substantially in 2015 and 2016, being wholly converted to a commercial building in April of 2016, with the removal of the Roll of Honour and the Eternal Flame. When this became fully evident in 2017, there was a huge public outcry that I'm quite sure you will all remember. That's if you were in Napier at the time. These latter events are especially important because the agreement entered into by government and the Napier City Council in the 1950s created a very clear charitable trust situation where council would exercise a maintenance and caretaking role as trustee of the memorial on behalf of the citizens of the city who were the beneficiaries. The actions of the Napier City Council in adding to and changing the war memorial into a commercial centre were a complete violation of trust law. The building never belonged to the council outside the frame of the trust. It was held in trust for the people of the city who had, along with the government, directly paid for it. The long struggle to recover this community war memorial has taken 4 years. 4 long years, and you have before you a design that will have the effect of continuing the breach of trust by essentially constructing a new war memorial under the existing Napier War Memorial Centre sign painted on the exposed end of the hall. This building, which in law is the actual war memorial, will be retained for commerce, a trust breach not minimised by memorial names that might be adopted for rooms. The forecourt will continue to serve the commercial purpose primarily, and the new war memorial will be separated from it by a line of flagpoles. The invasion of the Capitol in Washington illustrated the powerful emotions meaningful architectural space can unleash. Locally, the widespread community anger at the commercial repurposing of Napier's very much loved war memorial was a response involving similar emotions. We in the community movement feel this hasn't been worked through properly and that the final result will be a continuation of the same trust-violating memorial divide-up proposals the community has been opposing for 3.5 years now. Those whose bones lie in land or sea far from here, we humbly think deserve better. In conclusion, I'd like to acknowledge the passing of Charlie Marden, Jeremy Nash, and the original architect Guy Natouche, who died 6 months ago, just short of his 100th birthday. Their loyalty and their efforts we in community recovery will always remember. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Alan. I'd just like to open up for any questions from councillors. Just one from, was that a question, Councillor Brown?
Yeah. Thank you for that, Alan. That was very moving. I'm just wondering, I don't know if this is something you can give me in a short answer, but what would you prefer
to give short answers.
Yeah. What would you prefer to see us do with the building and the forecourt area?
The entire building must be the Napier War Memorial Centre. The forecourt area is absolutely a part of that, has been historically right from the very beginning, and it must be treated as such. Now, I realise there are difficulties with the forecourt, there are people parking there. I know there are difficulties. What I'm suggesting here is not a sort of elimination of being able to use that building for purposes which benefit the city, all right? So, I mean, I think that illusion is there. It's not there. But it most certainly, we do not wish to see a division there between a new war memorial, which is a sort of garden or landscaped area beyond that, and the buildings themselves being mainly commercially used by the Napier City Council. It's not right, it's wrong. And in law, it's completely wrong. There is flexibility, but heavens, you get to a state of flexibility by talking, I think, I hope. I don't think we've done enough of that yet. There's no, put it this way, I don't feel any pressure to resolve this issue here and now. I did before, because I'd be the first to admit that I rather hoped that the original architect could push a button or cut a tape or something, given his role in the city over so many years, but that's not the case. He's gone.
Thank you, Alan. If there are no further questions, thank you. And we will, as you know, be discussing this in item 3 on our agenda. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite Alan from the Napier RSA. Alan. No, I don't. Thank you, Alan, and just acknowledging while you come up that it would be good for the councillors to acknowledge other members of the RSA that you have with you today. So we have Brian and John Purcell as well in the audience. Thank you for being here. Alan.
Morena koutou, ko Alan Lawton taku ingoa. Morning everyone, my name is Alan Lawton and I'm junior man in the RSA, and there's a saying in the RSA, when the senior man speaks, nobody speaks after him, so they've sent me up here, so I get to talk. What I'd like to say is that the RSA is more than, well, let me put it this way, I'll go back a step. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the past and what's happened in the past. I want us, well, the RSA wants to move forward, and they want to see the council moving forward with the War Memorial. So we are, at this stage, more than happy to have seen the designs. We have, they've been on display at the RSA, and our members have looked at them, we've looked at them, and we're quite happy with what we have seen. Okay, so at this point in time, we have full confidence that the council will do the right thing in the future. Outside of that, there's not really a lot for me to say, even from the RSA point of view. We are happy with the current process or progress at the moment, and we're sure that the processes that you put in place in the future will be the right ones. So outside of that, I'll take any questions from anybody, because there's nothing to ask me about. So, so basically, yes, the RSA is in full support of moving this project forward.
Thank you, Alan. I have a couple of questions, if you wouldn't mind. First is, do you feel the RSA has had an opportunity to be involved in the development of those designs through the working group, and are you comfortable with your involvement to date?
Yes, the RSA, we've seen right from word go, your designs that have been put out. We've had a look at them, and we made comments on the very first ones that came out that we felt weren't suitable enough. And then you came back with another lot with the ones that we have now. And we've looked at them, and we're very happy with what we've seen. There are elements of Guy Nartusha's original memorial, which we're very happy with. And we think, yes, we've had enough involvement in it.
Thank you. And I will take other councillors' questions. My last one is around a sense of urgency for this project. It's something that we have heard differing views on, and so just interested on your view of your membership's sense of urgency around this.
Well, yes, well, of course, we would have liked to have had it ready for last Anzac Day, but these sorts of things do take time, and we recognise that fact. And it would be very nice if it was available and all completed by maybe November the 11th of this year. Whether that happens or not, it's going to be up to you people. But definitely it would be nice to see if it was ready by Anzac Day next year.
Lovely. Thank you, Alan. I have a question from Councillor McGrath.
Yeah, just through the chair, going way back when this all started, I actually asked the question in the committee meeting, have the RSA been consulted? And the answer was, that came back through to us was yes. It was way back in 2015-16. So I actually want to ask the question directly to you, although you've semi-answered it. Have the RSA been consulted, and what are your thoughts?
The only way that I can answer that is that 2015, whenever that question was answered, or the consultation, I was not here at the time. So
I want your answer for
but
today.
I believe
not
that
going backwards.
since I've been here, the RSA, I've worked closely with those in the council. We've looked at things, we've spoken to people about it, we've had meetings with the mayor and the deputy mayor over the project, and we believe that, yes, our the consultation, whereas the RSA is concerned, has been okay. It's been pretty good.
Excellent, thank you. Love to hear that.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Alan, kia ora. Just an interesting question. We refer to the RSA. Can you tell me what percentage of RSA members are actually veterans of any conflict, and what percentage of RSA members are purely community members?
Well, that's an interesting question, and lucky enough, I just worked that out last week.
Good idea, wasn't it?
Our veteran and service status, we are at 11% of our membership, and we've got something like nearly 4,000 members, so we've got 400, about 400, just over 400.
And so 3,600 are just normal Napier or local residents who
Correct.
can be a member of the RSA?
Correct.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. If there are no further questions, Councillor Tuffany.
Thank you. Greetings, Ellen. The previous public petition put forward by Alan mentioned that it would be, there are opportunities, is probably the best way I could, but there are opportunities to put a greater link between the changes which I support that have been put forward today and the current memorial building itself. Were there any comments from your members around a desire to see a stronger connection between outside and inside the building at all?
Not recently. Originally there was, some time ago, where in regards especially to the eternal flame and that sort of stuff, been inside somewhere. But outside of that, not recently that I'm aware of. So.
Thank you very much.
Lovely. Thank you, Alan, for your time to speak to us this morning. As I noted to the previous Alan speaker, we are discussing in item 3, the memorial design, and invite you to stick around for that.
Thank you. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Could I just say that Mr. Taylor asked how many...
John, can I ask you to come up, because we are being live streamed and it would be good for members listening. John Purcell from the RSA, continuing on the public forum from Alan.
Yes, I just want to say this gentleman asked how many RSA members are in the Napier RSA, for instance. The answer was 400 or 500, I'm not sure. But the real answer is that nearly everyone in the RSA has some connection to this project that we're doing. Their uncles, brothers and fathers and what have you have all been part and parcel of an RSA. So when we ask the question how many there are, Mr. Taylor, it really should be how many connected to some RSA family or other in the area. And I think you'll find a number way higher.
Oh, can I reply?
Absolutely.
I wasn't questioning the number. What I was trying to get to the point was that actually 4,000 members of the community have been consulted with.
Yep. Yes, okay. No other questions?
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
John Kilda. We will move on to announcements. There are none from myself. Any from Your Worship?
Just a reminder to anybody that might be watching on the live stream that we're consulting on our long-term plan at the moment, and would really love to hear your views both on the specific consultation topics included in the document and any other feedback or views or information you might like to share with us. The consultation closes next Wednesday, the 12th of May, so just under a week to go. So we're really looking forward to hearing from you on our long-term plan. And I'll just pass across to Councillor Bogue. She's got a reminder for people as well.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I just wanted to take this opportunity to remind the public that the deadline for applications to our Community Services Grant Fund is Friday, the 14th of May. So this is our major contestable fund available to groups working to support the community. So information and application forms are on the council website. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor McGrath, I understand you also have an announcement.
Must be announcement day. It's great. Just next week is Youth Week, and the Napier Youth Council are running a few events, so if you're keen, get in behind it all. They've got a youth market day, a living library, a beach clean-up, a quiz night. They're going to be involved with the Cultural Diverse City event, Sunday skating sessions, and there's a few online events as well. So if you just go on to the Napier Youth Council Facebook site, you'll be able to find some dates and times, and look forward to seeing you there. I see Councillor Price is already going in to look.
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you, councillors and Your Worship, for your announcements. I will move on to a call for any minor matters. Councillor Bogue.
Yes, I have a minor matter which refers to council applying for gaming grants.
Thank you, Councillor Bogue. We will note that for discussion at the end of the meeting, and just for the purpose of live streaming and our audience, minor matters can be raised and discussed by council, but no resolution can be made other than to refer it to a future council meeting. Any announcements by management? And I'd like to welcome Rachel Horton, who is standing in as our Chief Officer for Future Napier today. I'll go back to that. Any announcements by yourself? No? Moving on to the confirmation of minutes. Can we have a mover that the minutes from Thursday, the 25th of March 2021 be taken as a true and accurate record? Councillor Bogue and Councillor Mawson. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carried. We will now move on to item 1. This is an item I have a standing conflict in, so I will be vacating the chair and letting Councillor Tapani chair item 1 for us. Councillor Tapani.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. No mai haere mai Luke. Welcome to the table. You're here to present on item number 1, Resource Consent Activity Update. Take it away.
Kia ora. As you can see from my report, the resource consenting team has yet again seen continued growth in the number of applications that we've received, up from 22 from last year to 35 in this last period. So that's reassuring to see that development's still progressing very well within the city. I'll now move on to providing you an update on a number of applications that are considered rather significant for the city. The first being the Pga Arena Upgrade. We have received 2 applications for that are currently under assessment. Stage 1, which was the establishment of a temporary car park and ancillary earthworks. I can advise, since writing this report, that this application will be withdrawn. There is a new application that was received yesterday, late afternoon, by Council for the stage 1, which will be a permanent car park and no proposed earthworks. There are 243 car parking spaces proposed. It's in the same location as that which was previously proposed for the temporary car parking. It's just to work around a number of issues for the developer to try and get something approved for the purpose of funding. That's the only update I can give you on that application, as it hasn't actually been forwarded on to the assessing officer as yet. Moving on to the stage 2 application, which is still currently on section 92, awaiting further information. I have received an update from the applicant indicating that they are currently working with Hawke's Bay Regional Council around formal written approval for the land and works to, land to be occupied within the Stopbank buffer zone. And also they are working on a legal instrument to allow works and also the land to be occupied. So that's currently underway. We have not yet received the response to the Section 92 request for that application as yet. We've recently received an application over 33 Rogers Road at Bayview, which is for a proposed campground and caravan park. There's 50 camping spaces and caravan spaces proposed as part of that application. It is also currently under further information request that's been issued, issues relating to the scale and intensity of the use, proposed earthworks, servicing to the site, and also the need for upgrading of access and egress points to the site. And then the final application that was considered significant was the receipt of the Kangor application over 1 to 23 Seddon Crescent at Mariwa. This is a multi-unit development proposing 24 units and a 12-lot into 24-lot subdivision. There are also ancillary earthworks proposed as part of that application. As you can see from the plans that have been submitted that I've included within the report, it's a well thought out application, design and layout, with a range of densities around the number of bedrooms per unit, as you can see. The only other applications that were previously reported that have now been subsequently approved was that of 94 Munro Street, the commercial building, office space and retailing, and the proposed car dealership at 195 Tennyson Street, Napier South. I'm now happy to answer any questions you may have.
Fantastic. So, Councillor Price.
In relation to the Gloucester Street car parking issue that's become permanent, are you able to just confirm that that's a result of it becoming too difficult to put the car parking on the riverbank?
The location of the proposed car parking spaces, the new permanent car parking spaces, that was determined, a number of factors contributed to the determination to move that. Whether or not it was specifically around the issue of how difficult it was to locate in that position, I couldn't answer that question. That would probably be something better put to the applicant as to reasons why. But I do know that the proposed location that they are now indicating is considered suitable.
That's a permanent one in between the new building and the old building?
No, it's to the north of the existing arena. So where the existing open space area is, to the west of the student housing.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have something, Rhodes?
That's fine, thanks.
Councillor Bogue.
Thank you. Thanks for this. In light of the intense shortage of affordable rental and houses for people to to rent and purchase. It's really encouraging to see the Pga Arena proposal and Seddon Crescent. And I just wondered, there's been a lot of talk through the media about the red tape that people have to cut through in order to successfully build such houses. And I wondered, are we doing anything? Is there red tape involved? Is there any way we can speed up these applications at all, in light of the fact that we have the highest number per capita of people on the social housing register, and a lot of our citizens living in motels?
I can't comment on red tape, but what I can comment on is the process that that the resource consenting team goes through for assessing and determining applications. There has been a significant improvement in the way in which we approach these developments. We try to engage with the applicant and, for example, Pga Arena prior to lodging an application, so that we can identify any issues that may be foreseen as things that will hold up the process of getting a resource consent issued. So that process has been significantly improved to date, and in my opinion, the processing times, we are meeting legislated timeframes and continue to do that. So it's
very encouraging. Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Can I please add to that there is, of course, the Shovel Ready project process that is not related to what we do, but is a way in which developments can be put forward through the government mechanism for doing that. But that's not related to council work.
Councillor Taylor.
I don't know whether you can answer this question, but I'm just thinking of the Rogers Road scenario there, and another 50 caravan or another 50 sites out there. Are we at risk of that part of our area actually becoming the caravan centre, because we've got Napier Park, we've got another one across on the corner, across the road on the highway, and now another one on Rogers Road? Is that taken into consideration? An over-proliferation of one business?
Yeah, so we really do need to apply the considerations of the Act to the application, and we wouldn't be able to make comment on that at this point. The notification of this is for information only. Those things are taken into account, though, as part of the process, but I wouldn't want us to comment on that at this point.
Fine. Thank you, Rich. Rhonda. Mind blank. My apologies, Councillor Crystal.
That's all right, Napier. Just a question with the Seddon Crescent. Just what does a walk-up apartment building consist of?
Through the chair, that may just be a first story unit. So at ground level, you may have car parking and other units, and then it requires you to walk up a stairwell up into a first floor.
Oh, okay. So then that would mean there's no disability access or anything to it?
As part of the assessment process, disability access is required, obviously, under legislation.
Yeah.
So that would be something that would be assessed.
Yeah, okay.
Wonderful. Luke, I've got a couple of questions. So the first one for me is, given the significant amount of changes, I wouldn't say significant, let's just say changes around the Pga Arena intentions to develop on that site, my layman's impression of that is typically when resource consents go through those number of changes in such a short period of time, the opportunity to introduce unintended errors or risks are not normally found until later. Do you have confidence that we are, as a team, are addressing and mitigating any risks that might be associated with the changes as the Pga Arena try to find a working solution?
Yeah, I believe, through the chair, yes, we're very thorough in the process of receiving an application, undertaking a Section 88 assessment to ensure that everything's there that is required under legislation. The changes that are proposed are generally in response to a Section 92 request, where we have identified some issues. The applicant then has an opportunity to go back to their client, revise the proposal, and they may determine, again, this is probably a question best answered by them, but generally an applicant may determine to alter, withdraw or resubmit an application, a revised application.
Cool bananas.
Through you, Chair. May I add that this process is not unusual for developments of this scale. This would be a normal sort of process in terms of these sorts of scale developments. And, you know, as we've only received the new application yesterday, we're still assessing, yeah.
Thank you very much to you both. And my final question is probably more directed at our environmental team. I note your last report, which was an excellent delivery last time, same again today. We had a 50% increase in activity last time. This time we've got a 30% increase in resource activity. That's absolutely fantastic that we're seeing an increase in economic activity in the city, because that means money circulating in new homes and buildings being built, et cetera, but it also means a significant increase of waste to the Oamaranui landfill, and I'm conscious that 70 to 80% of our waste at the moment is commercial. So are we looking to work with the industry? Have we seen significant change within the industry? Are we comfortable that even though we're seeing an increase in resource activity, we are still managing to keep on top of the amount of waste that's ending up at Oamaranui landfill? How are we balancing the economic drive with the environmental impact?
Thank you, Chair. I think, you know, Cameron Burton would be best to answer this, and John may wish to contribute, but my understanding is that, no, we're not. The obligation around waste management is on the applicant, is on the developer, and, you know, our current resourcing doesn't allow for us to do that. But I think it would be a question we could take away and get Cameron to give some more detail around it.
That would be great. Tell him I don't need a full report, just a memo to the council would be welcome. Are there any further questions? Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. The question I have around the Pga Arena extension, I note on the site plan that the existing barbecue area survives, but there's no mention of what happens to the doggy playground.
Yep. Through the Chair, that's all been assessed under the Stage 2 application. So that the applicant has been in contact and working with our Parks and Rec team in order to determine a suitable location for the relocation of the dog park. But as I said, that application is still under Section 92. The applicant has not yet responded to that.
Yes.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just a follow-up question to that. The doggy playground is likely to remain in that proximity, within that reserve area, or relocated to another reserve?
Through the Chair, we haven't yet made those determinations.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions from council? Fantastic. Then I'd like a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Price, Councillor Taylor, all in favour?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you very much. Against? Motion passed. Thank you very much, Luke. I appreciate the report. And I'll hand back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tapani.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Right.
You heard me.
That's right, it's double debated, Keith.
I will call us back to order, and we will move on to item 2, which is a report from myself, a chairman's report on the repair and reinstatement of the Napier War Memorial original roll and honour plaques. At this time, I'd like to invite up to the table the other 2 members of the subcommittee, Dorothy Pilkington and Craig Morley, who will be available to speak to the recommendations that we are making as a subcommittee to you today, as well as answer any questions. So, by way of introductions, the subcommittee was formed out of Mayor Wise's working group on the Roll of Honour, which on the War Memorial design, which we are addressing next. And it was a subcommittee of the 3 of us, with a number of other members pulled in and out of that as needed. Dorothy, I understand you would like to introduce our recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I'll draw your attention to the fact that the reason that our subcommittee was set up was that in 2019, a motion was passed that the physical original Roll of Honour be respectfully incorporated into the design, and that a small committee of appropriate representatives are given the brief to provide council a recommendation on how to incorporate. At that stage, the idea was to create totally new plaques and do away with the existing Roll of Honour. I also draw your attention to the fact that 3 years ago, Craig and I were sitting in exactly the same seats, speaking to you about an organisation called ECOMOS. which is the International Council on Monuments and Sites, under which one of the provisos is that when you are doing anything to a heritage building, you preserve all possible existing fabric. So what Craig and I were saying at that stage is you don't throw away the existing plaques, you actually use them. You don't incorporate them and create a new role. You just reinstate the existing role. And that is exactly what our brief has been, and from which the recommendations that you're looking at today have come. Guy Nartouche actually asked for a heritage architect to become involved in the design, and the first thing that Chris Cochrane, the conservation architect who was consulted, said, yes, the role must be reinstated. So that has been the aim, and that's the recommendation that you're looking at now. And that was also backed up when Jeremy Salmon became involved and James Blackburn at 44 Architects. So all three heritage architects have said that the existing role must be incorporated back into the building, not just put aside. Our other brief was also to include an extended electronic role, incorporating the names that have been researched to be added to the role. So basically, those are the recommendations that you're looking at this morning. Okay.
I think you've summed it up pretty well, Dorothy. It's been a long process, and as Dorothy has pointed out, we've advocated for the principles of ECOMOS to be followed and reinstating the original fabric, and that's where we are today. And everything that we've advocated for has been supported by the heritage architects that have been brought on board. So I've had a good read through the proposal, and we're very open to questions, and even after the meeting, if you need any points clarified, then please feel free to address us.
Thank you, Dorothy and Craig. So just, I suppose, for context, councillors, because this is a little different, the way this paper has come to you. So there is a series of chairperson's recommendations in there. You will note the first is to approve the War Memorial Roll of Honour Subcommittee recommendations. So essentially we have a second tier of recommendations that you're approving if this motion is to be passed. That is an attachment and contains just under 3 pages of recommendations in the detail of how the roll is to be reinstated. I'd like to open up now for questions. Councillor Bowe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's great to have your positive endorsement and to hear about your involvement in this process. It's just fantastic after those years of conflict and discussion. But I have a question that was raised by Alan Rhodes. Do you have any concern about commercial use of the building at all? Do you think that undermines its integrity in any way?
Councillor Bogue, I'm just conscious that may be outside of Dorothy and Craig's consideration on the roll of honour, and maybe a question we could put to item 3.
Sure.
Councillor Crystal.
Thanks for coming and talking to us, and obviously, first of all, I'd like to thank the staff members, the council staff members that pulled those plaques out of the rubble. Otherwise, we wouldn't even have them here today. So it's a very important part of our war memorial, and great to see them going back. I have numerous family members on that roll, and one of the things that it was really good to see is that even though they're going to be proposed to be on the outside of the building, that they will be protected from the weather. There's obviously some issues with water getting behind the granite, and it was really good to see the detail of that. So hopefully we won't get, it's quite a harsh environment there with the salt water and stuff being quite near. So I guess, are you guys confident that that's kind of been addressed?
Well, they've been there for 60 or so years, and up until 1995, they were in a pretty similar situation to what they will be in the future. So. The architects who have looked at that have given us a long report on how to conserve them, so hopefully They'll be fine.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Councillor Crystal, and I think it raises the issue of the conservation of the plaques and their management into the future. So councillors will note in B of the recommendations, we are also endorsing the report entitled The War Memorial Plaques Recommendations and Repairs for Reinstatement from Sam and Rhodes, who had a conservation architect assess not only the role but also provide recommendations on its maintenance and security. Do we have any further questions? Councillor Simpson.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, thank you for the diligence that you have managed this process in. My question is, there's a lot of detail in here, and I'm just while I'm sitting here thinking, I understand that the names that were originally omitted from the roll, from the plaques, will be on an electronic roll. Is there an additional plaque that will be constructed to have those names recognised?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Councillor Simpson, is how will names which are currently not memorialised in stone be memorialised. So you will note in the paper that we had a great deal of names identified through the process Napier City Council ran in 2018, and some acknowledgement to Charles Ropatini for heading up that process in 2018. It was very robust, but it did leave us with over 1,000 new names to add. That was something that the Roll of Honour subcommittee considered, how those would be memorialised, where we have landed in the recommendations, and I'm just looking to see which recommendations they are. Perhaps my colleagues down the end there could help me with which numbers that is. But where we have landed is that new names will be memorialised in stone where there has been a request for that to occur, either by a family member or the community at large, and where there are no objections to that name being memorialised in stone. We're aware of some anomalies that we would need to work through on a one-by-one basis. Names where there is no request for them to be memorialised in stone will be memorialised in the living roll only until such a time as they could be then added in stone if a future request was made. We're really conscious, and it was something we considered a lot, that the role does move and change over time as new research comes to light, and that it would be reasonable to expect additional names to be added in stone over time, and that there is a space in these recommendations for that to occur. And we are recommending that that be done in the same manner as the additions in 1995 were made on additional plaques in alphabetical order at a certain time, added to the end of the relevant conflicts.
Thank you.
I'm getting nods from down the end of the table. So.
Spot on, Annette.
Okay. Councillor Brown.
Pretty clear, that one.
Just following on from that, and sort of out of curiosity, if we have future conflicts, would they be treated in the same way?
Yes. Councillor Tapani.
Through you, Madam Chair. My question, I've got two questions, but with regards to the plaques, I know that quite a bit of considerable work. So we're looking to put the originals back in place, and any future ones that may or may not be incorporated would follow the same design? Okay.
Correct.
And the other question I have would be probably to our two members speaking to the report. Greetings. Alan mentioned around, I actually really love what you guys have come up with. That's my first statement. I think it's been well consulted, and the new design features are linked really well to the building. I did hear Alan's comments around opportunities to provide a greater sense of connection and strength within the walls of the building, and so was wondering whether or not that was a part of the discussion, or whether whether you feel the current design on the table actually establishes its presence.
Thank you, Councillor Tapani. I think perhaps, Craig, I'll ask you to speak to that if you would like, and draw members' attention to Appendix 1 of the Roll of Honour subcommittee recommendations around the ongoing management of the living roll, which also covers some internal work. Craig.
Yeah, thanks, Annette. As usual, Councillor Tapani, it's not an easy question.
Sorry about that.
Our task was to consider the roll of honour, as per the resolution given to us, which was the reinstatement to outside of the building. So we have physical plaques that are intended on the outside in conjunction with 2 electronic plaques that will carry the living roll, which are names that have yet to be proven and researched properly to actually be immortalised in stone. On the inside of the building, we proposed a more extended living roll, which is essentially a touch screen that will contain all of the information and the research that has come to date on all of the fallen. So we could have stories from families and images, references, everything on a living roll that is completely interactable, and anyone from the community can come along and do more research, more information, and that will be covered within the actual building itself.
Thank you, Craig.
Is that kind of there, RP?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And
I think if I can add to that, don't forget that you did actually pass a motion that names of rooms within the building should commemorate some of the people who are on the roll. So there will be a presence within the building as well.
Yeah, thank you, Dorothy. I was just going to draw councillors' attention also to recommendation D, which is that we will have a separate paper coming on the management policy for the building, which will cover the likes of what Dorothy has just said in the naming of rooms.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Craig?
Yeah, just on that, there is a lot of information about our past fallen soldiers, a lot of information. And it's great that we've not only had the council members, Charles Robertini and his crew, and Madeline, and all that involved in the research, but a lot of the research actually come originally from Laurie Rhodes as well. So there is a lot of information. And a lot of that still has to be checked through and verified as well, which is one of the reasons we need a living roll, because it will change as more research comes to date. And this is one of the main reasons why we can't actually put them in stone at the moment, to make sure that we don't have mistakes on the future plaques.
Councillor Crystal.
In relation to a bit what Alan Rhodes said, I have been to Tynecott and I have been to Meningate. And at Tynecott, they have a living roll. And just to it is amazing. You can look up anyone that fought, and it's related to World War I. And it is an amazing feature, and you can go there and find your forefathers and all their history. So I think it's a really good asset for us to have.
Just to tag on that, Rhonda, the Wairoa Memorial, they have an interactive touchscreen there as well, which completely covers their past fallen history and all the information that you can access like that as well.
I just drew Annette's attention to the fact that this very morning in the newspaper, they have just got another touchscreen for the Murray Battalion D Company at Wairoa. So that is a really wonderful resource. So,
It is.
All right, thank you. If there are no further questions, I would like to ask for a mover, Mayor Wise and Councillor Crown. Mayor Wise, would you like to speak to the motion?
I would like to take the opportunity to acknowledge and thank both Craig and Dorothy and Deputy Mayor Brosnan for the many, many hours of work that has gone into pulling together the recommendations through to us today. It has been a very robust process, and personally for me, having been quite involved myself throughout the 5-year journey that we've gone through, have complete confidence in what has been presented to us today and support the motion wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Crown.
Mayor Wise basically said it all, but I just wanted to draw attention to the fact, thank you both very, very much for the hours of work, Deputy Mayor Brosnan also. But when we look back on what I'm sure people will see as quite an unfortunate sort of time in our history at Council, they will see the effort that has been made and the layers of information that has been gathered and the diligence that has been taken to try and restore something that is well worthwhile. So thank you very much. Yeah, fully support the motion and the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Crown. Councillor McGrath, and I'll just note I will be suspending under my delegation 21.1, suspending standing orders 21.6 to allow all councillors to speak.
Although I'm in favour of this then.
You know what I mean.
No, look, I'd just like to acknowledge how far we've come as a council as well with this. At one stage we were going to crush the plaques, and they were going to be put as part of a concrete wall or put on the ground, and we've actually turned absolutely full circle, come through, followed some of the rules, and I'd just like to acknowledge that work that has been done, and I think it's taken some time, and that's probably been our friend on this one, to be honest, but we are now moving ahead in leaps and bounds, and thank you for the work you've done, including yourself, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Councillor Crystal.
And I've already spoken, but yes, I'd like to thank you for all your work. I'm really happy the plaques are going back up, and I'd also like to acknowledge the eternal flame, that we still have the original container that it was in, because my grandfather lit that flame, and I'm sure he'll be happy wherever he is looking down at this is going ahead.
As of yesterday, it was still burning.
You got proof?
Yes, right there.
Perfect. Do I have any other councillors? Councillor Tuffney.
Thank you. So just to reiterate the comments already made, very traumatic journey for everybody, and it's absolutely wonderful to be sitting in front of yourselves and council with the collection of work that you guys have put together with our community, and I'm really, really excited about this version that sits in front of me and the growth that's gone through. The only comment I would like to add is that the reference made to the Māori Battalion 28th Māori Battalion touchscreen table is actually going to be available to be moved around the regions. So I'm sending a signal to MTG, to our War Memorial Centre and to our council that we may want to tunnel for the opportunity to host specifically somewhere, perhaps at the War Memorial, and invite our local 28th Māori Battalion contingent members and their families, because the table allows you to put a message, put a video recording, add photos, so you can, it's a living thing. So that's my corridor. There's an opportunity for us to grow in that space.
Thank you. With that in mind, if you would allow me, I would like to read the recommendation, because there's a number in there, and just also conscious that we are making a decision to revoke previous decisions of council in here as well. So the recommendations, as moved by Mayor Wise, is that we approve the War Memorial Roll of Honour Subcommittee recommendations in full, including to repair and restore the original Memorial Roll of Honour plaques. Endorse the Salmon Reed Architects report titled Napier War Memorial Hall War Memorial Plaques Recommendations on Repair and Reinstatement. Note that there are a number of work streams that will commence to implement the recommendations, including Roll of Honour research, draft list finalisation, community publishing, ongoing Roll of Honour guardianship structure, stonemasonry restoration and recreation work. D. Note separate papers are coming to council covering the related topics on the War Memorial design, which we have later today, the floral clock and the War Memorial Centre management policy. Note the recommendations on the naming conventions, removal of the names and full engraving of new names differ from the Strategy and Infrastructure Committee resolution of 19 February 2019 and council adoption on the 5th of March 2019. Confirms the revocation of the council resolutions made on 5th of March 2019 in the confirmation of the Strategy and Infrastructure Committee meeting held 19th of February. Item 2, paper entitled Roll of Honour Resolutions A and B as follows. Approve the Napier Roll of Honour as an official civic list of war dead for display at the War Memorial Centre site, and approve the 15 identified names from the 1995 Roll of Honour deemed by research to have a good legitimate reason for removal are not carried forward to the revised Roll of Honour. And that would be in accordance with our Standing Orders 24.6 Clause 36, Schedule 7 of the Local Government Act 2002. That has been moved and seconded. Your Worship, did you require a right of reply?
No.
All those in favour?
Can I just ask a procedural question for those who may not be aware? If we pass this, it still has to go through the double debating, so it won't be till the 27th of May that the final vote will be taken, just before we get too excited, which just to clarify that.
That's correct. So it will go through our Māori committee and then through to council for final adoption.
Great, thank you.
Right. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, Craig and Dorothy.
Thank you.
I'll now like to move on to item 3 and invite Drew Brown, our Senior Project Manager, up for the concept design for the Napier War Memorial Centre. I'd also like to welcome James Blackburn, who is our Heritage Architect and joining us on Zoom behind Councillor Tapani here. Welcome, James.
Morena. Oh no, afternoon now, sorry.
Afternoon. Drew, over to you to introduce our paper, please.
Okay, tēnā koutou katoa. We have, as you all know, gone through various stages of consultation and design. We have gone through several generations of design for how we can address the reinstatement of the various remembrance elements to the War Memorial. And I think we're on about the 6th iteration that we have at the moment. The iteration that we have at the moment had a great deal of consultation go into it. It has had input from specialist heritage architects, one of whom I'm looking at over there. And these gentlemen were brought on board at the request of Guy Natush, the original architect of the building. What we have in front of us today and what I'm trying to ask for today is the adoption of the concept design which has resulted from all the consultation and the efforts of the heritage architects and Chris Ainsworth, the architect which we have had on board throughout all the work with the working group.